Hello, hello. You've caught me mid whatever this is. I'm actually putting some cards away to start with. I'm reason my OBS overlays or layout got really weird. Okay. So yeah, I'm starting by putting. Had some piles sitting around from this very same project just earlier, and I'm going to get them put away in the boxes. Oops, that's wrong. Oops, that's. Aha, let's go there. We're going to put them away in the boxes before I actually dive into the construction. And I'll wait to see if anybody shows up wanting to see the cheesecake before I jump in on that. We'll hold off on that. It should be ready to go whenever. There's a large quantity of dubious challenges that I'm never going to be able to get rid of. Okay. So I'm just sorting. This is the green pile. All the other piles were done actually already. I just wanted to hold off starting up. And I thought I would get them sorted out before I did, and then it took a little bit longer than I was expecting. So all we've got left is the green and colorless piles yet to put away. I've never done anything like this on stream. I have no idea if anyone's going to show up or has any interest in such a thing. I also don't know that my camera has a sharp enough focus to pull this off. But the look of my screen there, it does not. So I'll have to verbally clarify everything I'm doing. A friend of mine invested heavily in dubious challenges, and it didn't work out. So I got a bunch of dubious challenges that I also don't have any use for. Okay, all the piles are done. We just sorted them by, they're alphabetized in these little piles, and then the piles are divided by mana value. And we're just going to get them into the main box. I have to periodically do this because I pull lots of cards out of the boxes as I'm building, and then I don't put them right back. I end up setting them to the side in little piles. Eventually, I have lots of little piles, and then I combine those little piles into big piles, and then sift the big piles back into the boxes. It's, of course, aggravated by the fact that I draft, so I end up with little piles from the draft that then have to get added in as well. Although I haven't drafted in a couple weeks because I've been playing this very cube that I'm working on today instead, which is a much cheaper prospect than cracking new packs for drafts. If you're a long-time player like I am and you've got an extensive collection, putting together a cube is a good way to utilize that because you don't have to. Because then you can build your cube including cards that are maybe less than ideal. You can tune the power level to allow you to play things that otherwise might not even see much play at all. Um, it's pretty easy to keep it fun, actually. Well, crumbs. I have my cards sorted by mana value and then alphabetical within each mana value section. I know there's 1,000 different ways to sort cards. I feel like my camera might be too high, except I'm going to lay stuff out up here eventually. At the moment we're kind of working down by me, but I should get some music for this. This would be the ideal time to figure out how to do some music, because otherwise it's just silent. Which I know if I was browsing around and I clicked in on this channel and it was just silence with no music in the background, I might not stick around. So I can't blame you for not sticking around either, honestly. But once we get through and putting this little pile away, I will go check on. I don't need to check on it. It's the cheesecake actually looks very good. It in the initial cooling round, it didn't crack at all, so it may still have cracked. I haven't looked at it in a bit, so it may still have cracked, but it made it through the initial cooling phase without any cracks, which is a huge step, because the last time I made a cheesecake with mix-ins, it cracked quite a lot in the first phase cooling before we even got to putting it in the fridge to chill. So the fact that we pulled through that this time is very promising for the long term. Okay. I don't actually know if Magic is how big it is on Twitch. I've watched a little bit of it. It's fun. But I've never really paid attention to the category. I play it a lot, but I play it with my friends and in person whenever we can. I take better to the in-person play. I find it less engaging. I can't see my opponent. And our last card to put away is Kamal. Okay. Oh, where'd I put the lid? Back to the other room to grab a lid, to slap it down. Yeah. The lid on the side I'm gonna need. Colorless box as well. Your landscape sitting on top. That also happens, right? End up with cards flat on the top of the rows. This is our colorless box, which is usually quite a lot quicker to sort through. In this case, I have not separated the colorless and artifacts from the colored artifact, or from the, no, colored artifacts are in the colored boxes. The colorless box is purely for things that have no color. It's just the easiest way in my mind. That way I've got things like colored mana artifacts are in the appropriate colored box already. Since I play, at this point, mostly Commander, so having things sorted by color is more important for my usage. Put away our Filigree Silex. Quite like that card. I quite like that card. I've been very, very impressed with the cards from the latest set. The latest Phyrexia set. They are they're very punchy. They're very definitely strong. It's a very punchy set, and I see it having an impact on formats for a while. But I think it's good design, and it has a good internal cohesion and balance to it. Oh, I need to stop looking at the tracking at the top there. Clone shell. Clone shell. Steel Hellkite and a couple of lands. Steel Hellkite. And in all the boxes, the lands are sorted the same way. So the lands that are just one color are in the box with their color, but lands are sorted to the back of every box. Otherwise, they'd be in the front. And the front is kind of crowded anyways because of just the way the mana curve of cards exists. There are more low mana cards than high mana cards. And I don't really want to have to go through the lands every time I'm looking for stuff. So I put them at the back because they're usually one of the last things I reach for when I'm constructing. Okay. Put that box away. I do have just a couple of colored cards, multicolored cards here that are going to go in their respective boxes when we get that far. But I don't feel the need to dig those out right now. So we're going to set those aside and get to them when we get to them. So, main event. Well, the main event in so much as the cube here is the main event. So this is a Commander Jumpstart Cube consisting of currently 10, 26 card, if you count the Commander, but 25 card packs. The idea of which is you just grab two, shuffle them together, you have two Commander partners, and that's it. You play and I've custom made all of these packs, so they're not based on anything except what I think is cool. And I am today going to be tinkering with them. Because it was brought up during our last play of it that they need more generalized interaction. So I want to make sure that there's enough interaction in each one of these. They all should have an option to deal with whatever. At least when it comes to the half decks. Now, there's obviously going to be some deficiencies. Red's never going to get away to deal with enchantments properly. Although that would be that could be interesting. That could be a complete flop too. Sorry, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm not actually thinking the out loud part. So I'm starting with this one. This one I think has been working really well. It is Lulu, Loyal Hollyphant is the partner commander. Now, I've already given myself in construction here permission to just ignore whether or not things actually have partner and just pick an interesting commander. And I've restricted myself to things that either are partners or are backgrounds or just do one thing so that I can keep them kind of simple, although we have to adjust for power levels as well. So this is Lulu. The idea of this deck is supposed to be to tap your creatures without necessarily attacking with them, and also have some blink options for your creatures to trigger Lulu and make your board stronger over time. To that end, I gave it a pretty... And the thing is, this ended up being kind of an aggressive build, so I'm hesitant about the Swallow Hole. But I still think I want to keep that. It's good, strong interaction. I feel like this is the best. I feel like Lulu might get no tweaks. It's a targeted exile that taps one of your creatures. Collective Effort can take care of an enchantment, can take care of a creature, can interact with Lulu by tapping stuff, and buffs your creatures. There's a +1 count. There's a somewhat of a +1 counters theme in here as well, although it doesn't have any payoff. The payoff is the +1 counters themselves. The one I'm questioning is the Angelic Ascension. I put it in here as a probably going to target your own thing option just to trigger Lulu. But this deck currently has no way to deal with artifacts, which could be an issue. And then I gave it one board wipe, which was by invitation only, which I thought would be a decent way around not wanting to sacrifice all your things, although this isn't a terribly go wide build, so that might not be appropriate. I might actually swap the invitation only for a austere command. I think we might. No, the other one. What's it called? Oh my God, somebody's watching this. What's it called? I have to pull up Scryfall on the side. It's called something. Oh, sorry. Pardon me. Cleansing Nova. I think we're going to swap it up for a Cleansing Nova. I should have the white box handy. The white box is at the bottom of the stack. Okay. I think we're going to swap the by invitation only for a Cleansing Nova. Yep. This is one of the packs that I feel like is at the stage of just making tweaks. And I'm fine with that. We can actually put the by invitation only right back into the box. Now that gives us some targeted removal. No other targeted removal in the build. We have two good enters triggers. And one of them is potentially a flicker. Two guys to... Oh, no. Meadow Boon is also an enters trigger. Two cards that let you... Two creatures that let you tap your other creatures without attacking with them. Mikaeus, who taps himself without attacking to buff up the rest of your creatures. And then Meadow Boon's not an enter trigger, it's a leaves trigger. Breathkeeper, Seraph, and Revelark. I kind of want... I'm not... I gotta say, I'm not entirely sold on the Flicker sub-theme. I guess I understand why I went I mean, I went that way because that's how these things always seem to trend. But I don't know if I'm entirely sold on it. In an earlier version of this, I had Bound by Moonsilver, which lets you sacrifice permanents to trigger Lulu, which Lulu only cares about permanents leaving. So you can sacrifice lands to trigger Lulu. I kind of want it to be a sacrifice build. Let's... There's a lot of cards that sacrifice themselves. There's a lot of cards that sacrifice themselves. Oh, I wish I had a Cathar Commando. I don't have that. That would be perfect for this. That's another thing. I'm working with cards I have on hand. Cathar Commando would be amazing because it would fill that role of being able to hit artifacts and enchantments, but also easily leave the battlefield on command. Let's see. I had the Citizen's Crowbar in here earlier because it comes attached to a body, so it counts sort of as a creature. It deals with artifacts and enchantments, and it sacrifices itself to do so. Although it does not interact well with any of this stuff. But it does let you tap the creature it's attached to and then break itself. So it interacts really well with Lulu. But that's pretty much where it stops interacting well with how I've built this. It's a conundrum, and the thing is, this deck was working quite well. This half deck was working quite well. It had good payoffs for multiple interactions or multiple combinations. But yeah, so I guess what I'm questioning here are the Revelark and the Felidar Guardian more than anything else. The Breathkeeper is strong and would be stronger if I leaned into a sacrifice theme rather than a flicker theme. I need bite creatures that sacrifice themselves for beneficial outcomes, beneficial payoffs. I know they exist. I have that. That's interesting. Okay. We run a little bit low in terms of size. So I'm wondering if expendable troops might be exactly what I'm looking for here. Because you can trigger it easily. So it has utility later in the game. Yeah. That makes me kind of want Revelark to stick around. The Eerie Interlude up there. Because Revelark makes then that slightly better. I'm not sold on the Angelic Ascension. And I haven't been this whole time. I kind of want that to be something else. Something else. Oh boy, Fanatical Devotion would be a good card here. It's not removal, so I'd be popping out removal to put it in. Or taking out the Eerie Interlude? Maybe take out the Eerie Interlude. Yeah, I think we take out the Eerie Interlude. And we swap over to Fanatical Devotion. Okay, now we're leaning. We're bringing this more towards a sacrifice theme, which again makes me want to not use the Angelic Ascension, and instead we could stick with the Angelic theme and do an Angelic Purge. Angelic Purge. Sacrifice a permanent, exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment. It's still exile, still targeted exile, which the Angelic Ascension was. This time it triggers your, it hits a wider array of targets. Although it's a sorcery, currently have no instant speed interaction in the deck, which is probably a problem. Other than the expendable troops now that's in there. Interesting twist. Interesting changes have been made. That does, well, collective effort. Yeah, I'm going to leave this as is. This is going to be the new build of this one. But before I put it completely away, let's get out the other white one and lay it out and do a side by side with them. The other white one is quite different. It's Sylvia Brightspear Tribal Dragons. One thing I've noticed is I don't think I want the Runed Stalactite in here. Ooh, Oblation. Oblation might be the thing for that deck. I always forget about Oblation. It's such a good card. I always forget about it because it's worded strangely. I think Oblation might be for that deck, though, because you can use it on your own thing to draw cards and trigger Lulu, or you can use it on your opponent's permanents in a pinch. I think, well, I don't need to take. We'll move the Oblation over there. This deck needs more interaction in general, but it doesn't want the Angelic Purge. My issue here is we've got my issue here is that a lot of the dragons come down after Sylvia. And I tried to mitigate that with changelings. But honestly, frankly, I'm not 100% sold on this entire deck at this point. It lands some big powerhouse cards, but it's such a wonky tribe to try to do in white. It might be just too cute. The Eternal Dragon needs to be a timeless dragon. You guys can't even. The Eternal Dragon needs to be a timeless dragon. I feel like I need a sharper camera if I'm gonna do this, or get a boom arm so that the camera can be closer. Hmm. issue here is that this deck has exactly one piece of removal, and it deals with only creatures with toughness 4 or greater. The only other piece of removal it has is a Scalelord Reckoner, which is very, very powerful, but it relies on your opponent to trigger it. And I think that's part of what makes the Lulu deck such a good contender in general, is that it has those interaction options. So I gave this deck a Dragon's Horde for draw. God, it might just be too. It might just be too cute. I might have gone too much for it. Hmm. Well, I almost want to break. I almost want to just break it down completely. I'm less than enthused with it. Um, it's a dilemma. It definitely needs more removal, and it needs some just general. Something just sort of generalized. Um, pull up Scryfall, take a look, see at what we got. Ooh, pardon me. I just got a new card actually from Phyrexia. Ossification. Target creature or planeswalker. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for non-land permanent. Well, the obvious choice would be just a banishing light. So I guess I'm going to grab that as a fallback here. We are still very deficient on interaction. The deck is just, the half deck here is just Dragon Go Burr. It lacks any kind of board wipes. It was instead relying on being the threat that you would play the board wipe against, rather than playing them itself. But it kind of runs slow, is the thing. Let's reorganize it so that we can see what we got. So I've got a Ruined Stalactite and a Shields of Velasvel that both make my non-dragons into dragons, which is important for a tribal thing like this, because I would like to bring any of the other packs have an option to join in and interact with this pack. On the far end of that, we've got our big dragons. We've got a Scalelord Reckoner, a Sunscorch Regent, and an Eternal Dragon that wants to be a Timeless Dragon, but I don't have a Timeless Dragon. The Orator of Ojutai rewards us for having dragons before we actually get to the dragons. Whereas the Dragon Disciple, I think, is going to end up getting cut here because it's protection for our big dragons, but it's kind of very poor protection. And as a creature itself, it's really quite middling. So I think we're cutting that guy. In the middle here, we have our changelings. And I've got the ones I really like. Imposter of the Sixth Pride, I really like. Irregular Cohort. And then the ones I don't like so much. Avian Changeling and Changeling Sentinel. And then the one that is potentially the best card in the deck, which is Mirror Entity, which is the best card in every tribal deck. Sylvia gives our dragons double strike, so it makes the changelings look better than they really are. Imposter of Sixth Pride is almost playable as is, so with Sylvia, it's very playable. I think we're going to keep those changelings. And then the final thing I've got here is the Dragon's Horde, which I put in for draw. I think, honestly, I think the Ruined Stalactite is going to come out and make room for another interaction option. And then I'm going to have the Shields of Velasvel be the only, like, wonky tribal trick. But then I got this space here. What to do with this space? Is there anything else that cares about dragons? Boy, Cave of the Frost Dragon would be perfect for this. I don't have one of those. I don't have. Oh, I could put that Dragon Loft idol back in there. It cares about dragons. The Orator of Ojutai is already in there. Shieldhide Dragon, but that's terrible. I don't know. It doesn't really. White doesn't really do well with dragons, is the thing. I thought this was such a cute thing, but it's, like I said, it's probably too. Okay. That's what the one I need. Crystal Dragon would be perfect. Again, I don't have it. I keep looking at things that I don't have that would be perfect. Do I have Icing Death? I gotta find out if I actually have Icing Death. I don't. Dragons. We could make it a ramp option and push more into the top end. In that case, I would probably get rid of a changeling as well and give us more payoff. Yeah. Yeah. Crystal Dragon would be just so perfect for this. Crystal Dragon would be just so perfect for this, but I don't have it. Or do I? No, I don't. I confirm that I don't. That's unfortunate. Let's... I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're doing. With this one. Um, are there any other changelings? Are there any other changelings worth... You know, we could ditch Shields of Velasvel entirely and go with a Maskwood Nexus. That's a possibility. Maskwood Nexus costs 4, right? I believe it does. Maskwood Nexus. Yes, it costs 4. Oh, and it was reprinted. Oh, reach across. Oh, that's the copy I have. If I did that, then everything's changelinged, plus it gives me tokens. And then I would take out Shield of Velasvel and turn those both into more interaction options. With the spare changelings and the mirror entity hanging out in the likely event that you don't draw the Shield of Velasvel. So one of these is going to have to be a big banger. This is probably the deck for the Austere Command. This is probably the deck for the Austere Command. And then the other one should be something in the middle. I've already got hit anything. What was that? Sometimes I just sift through my cards and see what jumps out at me. Oh, I don't even have a viewable tab open. Okay. What are we doing with it? What are we doing? We might put the Dragon's Disciple back. No. What if I just grab something that can buff the creature type of my choice? Scryfall's a chugging. Okay. Dark Steel Mutation could be a good pick here. Or Urza's Incubator could be a good pick here. I think I'm going to go with the Dark Steel Mutation. Well, no, I'm going to go with Minimus Containment in that case. Okay. And that's both of these wrapped up, both of the white ones. So let's scoop them up. Give my preliminary shuffle to get the lands in there. Stick them back in the box. I'm too far away. I think my camera is too far away. Tell you what. Before I move along to cards, let's unveil the cheesecake. I'll send out a message. Switch my category. Switch my category to food. Oh, we need our pastry knife. And I think I want some dental floss to cut it with. Do I have any dental floss? So one of the troubles with cheesecake is that it's rather sticky. So it wants to stick to the knife that you're using to cut it. I will say, at this stage, it's nice and firm. There are no cracks. It held structurally, it held really well. I didn't line it with parchment, so it's going to have stuck to the sides, which is why I've got the pastry knife here. We will have to carefully run around the edge. Let's release the pressure. If I get it halfway and then push the clip, there we go. Then I can get in there with a little bit more room. Should probably have run a layer of parchment around the outside to make releasing it easier and to give us a nice smooth exterior, because the outer edge is kind of torn now from having been cut like that. But let's get into it. Okay. Oh, the crust is firm. Oh, the crust is almost too hard. I was worried earlier about the crust not being hard enough, but I think it's too hard because it's fully adhered to the bottom, which I don't believe it's done before. That might be the egg, because we did egg the crust. To give it some integrity. Well, the inside is soft. Okay, it's I made a mess. I need a fork. We're gonna give this thing the old straight up taste test. So this salmon cheesecake with garlic butter crust, dill, onions, and capers. First of all, it tastes a lot like a salmon cream cheese spread, just from licking the knife. The crust doesn't have a lot of crunch to it. It's hard, but it doesn't crunch. It just kind of crumbles. The filling tastes a lot like a salmon cream cheese spread, but with nice little crunchy onions in there, because the onions went in raw, and they've been cooked along with everything else, but they were raw onions and they cooked at cheesecake temperature, so not. All right, moving stuff out of the way of my photo station, because I do need to take a picture of this thing now that it is a finished result. Get it on a plate here. It's real tasty. The issue, I think, is that there's not enough crust. It's very savory. And it kind of wants, it tastes like it wants to be on toast. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does kind of defeat the purpose of what it is. And the fact that the crust has stuck to the bottom isn't helping either. I like it. I think that cheesecake fans might not be a fan of this. It definitely has a better texture than the pizza thing. And as predicted by me, there is nothing wrong with the flavor. The flavors work perfectly. Perfectly. The flavors are entirely on point. So, I don't know. It's a proof of concept. It's a successful proof of concept as far as I'm concerned. I'd eat it, which is good because I made it and I would be the one who would have to eat it. No, I know where this would be good. This would be good on a charcuterie board with little sliced meats and crusty breads and crackers and all those things. think the camera is too far away. I think that's part of the problem. Here, let me move you up. Camera, can you be a little bit less across the room? So, yeah. That's my verdict. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I don't hate it. And I can see where it would shine. And that place is not by itself. So in that way, it's not a traditional cheesecake. But it's not a traditional it's not a traditional cheesecake in any way, really. I've learned a bunch. I've learned a bunch from it. I've also learned a bunch from this attempt at streaming my magic deck building that apparently nobody cares. So yeah, let me bring back the whole thing. I'm not going to eat the whole thing, but let me bring it back. There it is. It's rather soft in the middle, which I was surprised by because, like, not in the, like, it's not soft in the middle this way. It's soft in the middle as in it's soft below the top and bottom. Which made it a little bit mushy to cut. The egg bound the crust properly, but I worry led to this sticking that I'm seeing. I also would have loved to have been able to use the shallot instead of part of a white onion, because you'd have little purple specks in there, and I think also it would have been a nicer flavor. Well, that is not it is exactly what I was trying to make, and in that way, it's a success. However, what I was trying to make is less appealing than I thought it was going to be. So in that way, it's slightly disappointing. I'm very glad I made a miniature version of this instead of a full-size one. I would never be able to eat the full-size version of this, and I would have a hard time convincing others to eat enough of it to get through it before it went off. This is the kind of thing where you have a little bit of it on a plate with a bunch of other stuff. A charcuterie. This is a charcuterie thing. It would be a fun centerpiece. Get the nice smooth edge, clean it up. This would be a fun centerpiece on a larger charcuterie board, where all the other things would balance out with it. That's That's where you'd make this. That would be a good place for this. As it is, I can't eat more than that one chunk right now, because it's very well. It's as dense as a cheesecake. It's heavy and dense, but it's not got the sweetness. It's heavy and dense and savory. So the flavors are adding savoriness and more fattiness to the already heavy, fatty flavor. So you just want a little bit of this with something else. I'm not sure what else more I can say about it. Not sure what else more I can say about it. That's the end of that chapter. And that's the end of that chapter. I hope it was entertaining. I hope I got a decent picture of it. I didn't check if any of those pictures came out before I dove in and started crunching. Let's clean up the table. Okay. It should air dry in just a moment. It should, in theory, air dry in just a moment. Plunk myself back in position. I can still see that it's not quite air dried. And I'm gonna swap my category back over. Stick with me if you want. Otherwise, we're going back to magic. And I'm going to keep tinkering with these deck lists. I'm going to try to spend less time staring and thinking and try to just blitz through them because I wanted to make some new ones today, not just edit the old ones. So dry off. The old ones were decently okay. So let's swap back over, pop back over. I moved the camera up so maybe things will be a little bit more visible. We're going to move on to the blue packs. Alora, the Merry Spell Thief, here. Is all about blinking creatures. And the thing I think that it was running into was it lacked, or it ran really short on mana very easily. But it has decent interaction. We've got token generating things. We've also got the Mana War and the Amphin Mutineer and the Sister of Silence as pretty top-notch interactions. And then I gave it a commit, which is, and an ether channeler. Wow, this one's hooked up. This one might be too hooked up. Three of them are also the only issue is that this is such a mana hungry build. That's the issue. So I probably should give this deck some kind of a mana rock. It's got draw, draw, potentially draw. Oh, it's also got a rapid hybridization. I may have gone way too hard on this one because that's... let's pull up Ramirez and take a look at that. Ramirez is the other blue one I've got. I think Alora is hooked up already. So let's try Ramirez. Ramirez has got a Mirror Shell Crab right off the top. And a Rescind. I'm thinking about moving the rapid hybridization over here. Oh, we got a Nimble Obstructionist. Blue, of course, naturally excels at interaction over the other colors. But we have room to modify here. We also got a Countervailing Winds. This does not carry removal so much is the issue. This deck is running... Well, Rescind is removal. Countervailing Winds is a counterspell. Mirror Shell Crab is a counterspell. Nimble Obstructionist is a counterspell. Well, counter ability. Shinen of Flight's Wings. Shinen of Flight's Wings is designed to get Ramirez in safely, as is Key to the City. Psychic Pick. Okay, honestly, this one looks pretty good too. It's got 5 interactions. One of them is target permanent. One of them is target non-land permanent. I'm going to leave this one as is as well. I think we're going to... What this one lacks is just a hard kill target thing. Which we could get with a rapid hybridization. It's also less mana hungry. It's got high mana payoffs, but they both have a cycling ability built into them. Shinen of Flight's Wings is one of the weirdest cards here. Because then you're just discarding it so that you can get it back. I think I'm going to take the Shinen of Flight's Wings away. And on this side, I'm going to take the rapid hybridization over here. Call this one good. Yep. Call Ramirez good, and then we just need, and I wanted to put mana in the in that deck because it's just so mana hungry. And I think we're gonna It was one I actually pulled out earlier when I was sort of breaking down the this half deck had a colorless tokens sub theme. And I shied away from that. But I think that the Eldrazi Sky Spawner, because it gives you a token and then also interacts with the flickering mechanic, actually should stay in. Even though we've pretty much dropped the colorless sub-theme. Okay. Oh, what is... Okay. Allura, done. Next up, we have Armix and Nikara. Now, I've already tweaked up Armix. Nikara was a new build. So let's look at Armix first, see if I'm still happy with it. I'm going to lay, as before, I'm going to lay the removal interaction stuff up at the top. We've got a Murderous Compulsion and Underhanded Designs. And that's it, interestingly. Heyo, I'm tweaking up. We just went through, actually, just a few minutes ago, I taste tested the cheesecake. Now I'm building and tweaking. It was exactly what I was going for. So in that much, it's a success. What I was going for turned out to be less appealing than I had imagined it. I'm glad I made a small one. I think it would be best, I think it would work great as the centerpiece of a charcuterie board. As it is, a slice of it is a bit too much. It wants to be with like little toasts and some kind of like dried fruits or something. That's the kind of flavor you get from it. So it's not bad. It's just it needs to be applied in a certain place. And then I'm tweaking up the existing half packs here, mostly looking at how much removal they've got, how much interaction options we've got. Yeah, we gussied them up with. I know my camera's not. This camera's not the greatest, but this is in fact the Phyrexian Flesh Gorger. We gussied up the decks earlier. And I'm just going through and making sure we've got enough interaction for these things to work. Now, Armix himself is removal, so this one's naturally going to be kind of lower on removal. One of the early complaints was that we didn't have enough big bomby things, which is why this deck got a Flesh Gorger. I don't know that I want to go too hard on more removal for this deck because we've got Armix. But it makes attacking with Armix potentially problematic. If you can't get rid of the threat when you attack, then he gets killed, and then he's not very good removal. Clay Revenant is in here purely to be something to discard to Armix over and over again. This deck is actually not very mana hungry, so I think here let me lay the whole shebang out. So Clay Revenant and Skeleton Shard are there to work with Armix. This Gorger is my big bomb thing. The other big bomb thing is cranial plating. I don't know how clear everything is. There's a lot of artifacts. I want this. The theme here, of course, is artifacts. So we have Chief of the Foundry to buff our artifacts. We have Sly Requisitioner to give me back artifacts when my non-token artifacts die. Flesh Gorger is just a big, punchy, crazy bomb thing. The Undercity Scrounger is in here because my commander is removal, but I almost want to swap it out for something to protect Armix. Because I think that's the weakness this deck has, is it needs ways to protect Armix. Goring Warplow is the other kind of big, punchy guy in this deck. So I think that's what we're going to swap this out for. We're going to swap out the Undercity Scrounger for something. Let me get my boxes. The boxes are all stage over here. And fun thing about Armix. See, Kaya's Ghost Form is a Swiftfoot Greaves. See, I was thinking to go with the artifact theme. Oh, where are you? Just my problem with Kaya's Ghost Form is that it's an enchantment. So you can't preset it. I can't really anything. It's Slip Out the Back, but it's not called Slip Out the Back. It's called Fake Your Own Death. That's what it is. Fake Your Own Death. Target creature gets +2/+0, gains when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped, and create a treasure. Treasure feeds us into the artifact theme, while being a surprise thing lives. The other one I'm not super sold on for this deck is the Chain Flail Centipede. Threw it in there because it seems okay. I threw it in there because it seems okay, but I'm not sold that it's worth it for this deck. But I do want to keep an artifact there in that spot. So we need a different artifact. And I think that'll probably be the only change. I want to keep that one as an artifact creature. What does it turn into? I'm gonna go ahead on Scryfall and I'm gonna search for Necrons. Because I bet you there'll be a good one that'll fit that role. Also, this deck only has one big bomby thing, and that's Flesh Gorger. Goreplow or Goring Warplow is not terribly big and bomby. The cranial plating is the other potentially bomby thing, but it can also be not so much. So something like high end, but not necessarily up to Flesh Gorger standards would be nice. So, because also my curve is pretty low in this deck overall. So something around 4 mana, I think, would be appropriate. 4 or 5 ish. How hard do we want to go? How hard do I want to go? I think. Sorry, I'm reading things to myself. I should be reading things aloud. How many non-creatures do I have in there? 1, 2, 3. We have 7 non-creatures. I think putting in a creature that gives us a token to 2 for boost us would be a good pick. So that said, I'm going to. I bought these dang Warhammer things. I'm gonna use them. We're gonna put in a Royal Warden, which fits our theme. Can be discarded to Armix because it has Unearth, and gives us a token. There's 2 tokens actually. And that puts it in the realm of being quite punchy. Okay. And of course, it's an artifact itself. Now, the one that has had much less of a once-over than Armix is Nikara over here, because we only built Nikara after we broke down the Black Elf deck because I didn't like it. The Black Elf deck probably could have potential, but it's the pool from which it draws is so shallow that I end up with just putting all the Black Elves in there. Nikara Lair Scavenger. This one has had very few test outings, so I'm not sure how it's going to work. But we did give her the Meat Hook Massacre, so I think we're probably in good, and a Bone Splinters. So I think we're probably in decent shape for removal. We'll see how we come across, and a Tragic Slip. What else we got? Serrated Viscelion is removal. And that's potential removal. That's 4 pieces there. And everything else is pretty much payoffs for counters or ways to get counters. And a couple of sack outlets so that we can trigger Nikara when we want to. Our sack outlets are the Woe Strider, Yahenni, the Carrion Feeder, and then Yahenni and the Carrion Feeder and the Woe Strider also all do +1 counter things. Gurgling Anointer wants to die and gets +1 counters. This deck's big crazy bomb is, of course, Necropolis Regent. Because that's very punchy. Yeah. The feign death up there. And then just things that get +1 counters passively. I'm reasonably happy with that one. Granted, I built this one later, so I had different mindset. Do we think we've got 2 pieces of premium removal. We've got a board wipe. We've got a big crazy bomb. We've also got a bunch of other things that can grow into bombs. So, and I'm running my feign death here because it returns with a +1 counter. The Iron Apprentice might, because you can't just sacrifice the Iron Apprentice at will. It has to die to something. So we could swap that out for the other one, sparring construct. But it shouldn't be that hard to get it killed. So sparring construct. Oh, that also just dies. Iron Apprentice is the better option between the two. I thought sparring contract sacrifices it. What's the one that sacrifices itself? I'm reasonably happy with this. Except maybe the Duskfang Mentor. Because it doesn't have another lifelink. It puts a lifelink counter on something, which is super neat. But then there's no other lifelink in the deck to interact with it, so when it activates its ability, it's just ever putting 1 counter on one thing. So maybe that's where I'm going to make a tweak. Because there are so much more efficient ways to work with it. Let's pull up her rec page. Ikara. Not a good. Now, okay. Some of these I remember when I was looking for stuff. I don't have a Skyclave Shadowcat. That would be another really good pick for this. Or do I? I do not. Sling Gang Lieutenant would be super cool, except it only sacrifices goblins, and there are none. I don't have Fane the Broker, which is a tragedy. I it's a +1 counters theme crossed with a sacrifice theme. I think we've got the well, do we? I think we've got the sacrifice part hooked up. We've got the +1 counters part hooked up. So I'm not sure what the deck needs. I just feel like Duskfang Mentor is underwhelming. Oh, I never got a Fane. He was in I stopped buying the precons. He's a really cool card, but he's not worth anything. So it was like, well, I want to bother getting one. What do you think? What do you think would go well with what with this sort of this sort of mess. I almost want... I've got a lot going on already. A payoff. Ooh, a payoff for +1 counters. That's not just more +1 counters, because currently we don't have that. Currently we don't have that. We don't have... +1 counters are their own reward in this case. But there are definitely payoffs for +1 counters. Empiric Rights is... Do I have any... Actually, that's a good question. Do I have any draw in here? I have Nikara. Nikara herself is draw. When a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had a counter on it, draw a card and lose a life. The lose a life is also a little iffy. Let's see if... Let's just look for payoffs for +1 counters. Ugh. And filter it to black, please. There's not a lot in mono black. Hagra Constrictor. Do I have a Hagra Constrictor? Feels like it might be in the deck already if I did. I have a Hagra Sharpshooter. That's not the same thing. That would have been perfect, though. Creatures you control with +1 counters on them have Menace. Our 4 options. I don't have a Hagra Constrictor, and I don't have a Skyclave Shadowcat. I already looked at the Skyclave Shadowcat. I also don't have a Tenured Inkcaster, which brings us down to just Merek Nightblade, which I'm confident I have. But now we're looking at Mass Death Touch. And is that good? I mean, it's good. Is that reasonably balanced? Why not? We'll give it a go. Part of this is playtesting. Part of this is the idea is just that we are doing playtesting. If it dies, the death touch goes away. True. Okay, I'm gonna call that one there. Scoop it up. We're gonna move on to the most controversial section, which is red. We are starting with the big one. Gut. Gut has overperformed thus far very, very strongly, and it has done so on the back. Oh, you know, that's something that neither of the black decks have, is enchantment interaction. And that was one of the complaints I was looking at. Now, black has received a little bit of enchantment interaction in the cards. So We could go back and add one if we really feel like we need it. Currently, neither of those decks have it. Sure, but not much. But the issue is the gut here essentially wins if he resolves a Warstorm Surge. And the last time I played it, nobody could come up with an answer to a Warstorm Surge, and it was just kind of crippling. I went through and I gave the white decks more answers. Baleful Beholder interacts with enchantments. It's not a great card, but for limited, it can be an answer for enchantments. Debt to the Kami. Extract the Truth. That one's even, that one's pretty solid. Feed the Swarm. Ghastly Death Tyrant. Invoke Despair. So there's been a bunch of more recent ones for black to deal with enchantments. Although there's not a lot of enchantments overall in my cube. So maybe just giving one of the... Hold on, we're going to back up. Maybe just giving... Did Armix get anything that can handle enchantments? And if it was going to go in there, it would probably go in place of the Murderous Compulsion and be something that hits enchantments and or creatures. And Nikara, same question. I wish there was one that had +1 counters on it while it was doing that. A Meteor Golem. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad... That's why they pay you the big bucks. How much is Meteor Golem? 7 mana? I'm not sure we have enough. Well, late game. Late game shouldn't be a problem. Do I have my fancy meteor? My fancy Meteor Golem's already in a deck, so we're going to get a non-fancy Meteor Golem. Probably better than Murderous Compulsion in a lot of situations anyways. Not that I dislike Murderous Compulsion, but okay. Okay, so Armix gets a Meteor Golem. Nikara wants what does Nikara want? Do I have a debt to the commie? Do I have a debt to the commie? That one seems okay. No, I don't. How did I get through? How did I get through the entire Neon Dynasty without that particular common? Okay. Well, that one's out. I might leave Nikara as is. Just because it's easier than trying to figure this out. There's not a lot of options. America's Libation is debt to the commie, but weaker. The other thing was to just deliberately mitigate the power of enchantments in the cube. I was considering swapping, because the issue I had was that once you got rolling with Gut and Warstorm Surge, it was just 4 damage repeatedly, just chucking it out there. I was thinking of swapping out the Warstorm Surge. Oop, the black box is still open. Swap to the red box. I was thinking of exchanging the Warstorm Surge, which was clearly a big game-ending bomb, but it was super hard to interact with Electropotence. If I can remember how much Electropotence costs. And if I've got one. I think I've got one. Maybe I don't have one. If I don't have one, then the point is moot. If we don't even have this card, then the point is just straight up moot. Because I looking at the card, that one seemed like it was the right balance. Because I wasn't just get the effect for free, I would have to invest in it. I don't think I have the card. I thought I had that card. Oh well. Not getting the Warstorm Surge effect for free was the thing that I thought could balance it out. Because it would limit my ability to just because it was once Warstorm Surge is down, you just play the deck, but also everything you play does a ton of damage. Whereas the Electropotence would slow the rate at which you're playing other stuff, and in exchange, turn the stuff you're playing into being also removal. Let's lay this deck out before I go nuts on it, though. So the theme here was Gut wants to sacrifice things that attack. So I gave him a Phoenix and another Phoenix. Tuk Tuk. As a package of things that want to be sacrificed. Warstorm Surge as my big crazy bomb. An act of treason because I can grab your thing and sacrifice it. And then we loaded him up with these little things that just want to be sacrificed. It was a Impulsive Pilferer, Ichor Wellspring, because he sacrifices artifacts or creatures. So I gave him an Ichor Wellspring, a Nimble Right schematic, a Servo schematic, and a Filigree Familiar. The schematics I especially like because you play it, it gives you the token. He can eat the token to make a skeleton. He can eat the schematic to make a skeleton, and then he can eat the other token to make another skeleton. And then we kind of filled it in with goodies. An Ogre Battle Driver for when the tokens enter, so they become 6s. A Gired's Belligerence, because populating those skeleton tokens is juicy. And then we finished it out with a big score, a brute strength, and a weapon surge. The weapon surge is there because the skeletons are 1 toughness, and I wanted to give them a first strike option. I think the brute strength might not be appropriate for this deck. Also, the deck has no removal at all except for Warstorm Surge, and I suppose the Act of Treason, which is a little bit of an issue, because then I entirely lean on the Warstorm Surge to be the removal. So I think we're going to cut the brute strength to make room for some removal. And gosh. Okay, scratch that. Gired's Belligerence is also removal. So I've got 2 pieces of removal, and they're both high-end things. So what I need is low-end removal. Although low-end removal in this deck should be relatively weak because this deck is pretty aggressive in the early turns. Do I want the Battle Driver? Yeah, I think the Battle Driver is appropriate. Rite of the Raging Storm. Oh, that's the one that makes tokens for everyone. Yeah, Warstorm Surge is not that card. Rite of the Raging Storm is an interesting idea, but I think we do just need to kind of stick with the deck needs some spot removal that's not game-ending spot removal. Rite of the Raging Storm. That's a fun card. We'll keep that in mind, but I don't think it's for this deck. So if Brute Strength is out, we hit the ground pretty fast in the early. We just need some more removal. Here he's Sacrifice. Do I have that card? I have Nahiri's Wrath. That's not appropriate. Gotta look it up. Don't remember it. Here is sacrifice. X. Probably not for this deck because a lot of what we're going to have on the board is tokens. The things we want to sacrifice are, a lot of them are tokens. My mad scientist hair kicking in. I feel like we're going to go really straightforward with it. Something like Brimstone Volley. 3 damage to any target. Morbid, 5 damage to any target. We can trigger our own Morbid with Gut very easily. What makes Gut so strong with Warstorm Surge is that you can attack with the skeleton that you've already got, sacrifice that skeleton to Gut to make another skeleton. This deck does not need enchantment interaction because this deck is the deck that has the problematic enchantment. And I think I want to leave the Warstorm Surge just because it is very powerful, and it is the only big finisher that I could come up with that meshes with Gut really well. And I kind of, the idea was kind of to bring all of the decks up rather than bring this one down. Because I thought this one was operating quite well. So a little bit of extra spot removal is probably all it needed. Because this is a combat trick that doubles as combat removal. Yeah, okay. I'm going to call that good enough. We changed one card and had a long discussion about Warstorm Surge. I still think that Electropotence is probably a more balanced option. We'll see. Keep that handy because we're going to pull out the other one that was new. We broke down because I had a dragon half deck and I didn't like it at all. I actually never saw play even one time. So I built Zada and I said, Zada can be a partner. He does the one thing. And the issue I have with Zada is I think you're right. Gut has a potential to just fall flat on his face if you can't get things to sacrifice with him. So he was performing really well, but you're right. He does carry an inherent risk of just falling flat. So the complaint when we tested out the Zada deck here was that there weren't enough creatures in it. So I'm going to pull out the creatures that are in it. And then the non-creatures that are in it. So there are more non-creatures than creatures, except Zada balances it out. So there's exactly half and half. This is Zada Hedron Grinder. When you cast an instant sorcerer spell that targets only Zada, copy that spell for each other creature you control that it could target. So what we're going here was basically instant sorcery combat tricks. And there's already some things I want to change. Mogus's Warhound was in here from an earlier build that I ended up backing off from. So we can swap that out for a better creature. I was doing this with that guy who triggers off of non-creature spells and gives gives somebody plus X plus O. And I thought, oh, Bestow is great for that because it's a creature, or you can use it to trigger the thing. And I guess this one got left in when I switched over to Zada to make it more interesting. I also loaded myself up with extra tokens. So Kenzin gives me tokens off of a land source to play with Zada. One of my non-creatures in here is the Goblin Wizardry, which is basically creatures. And I also hooked us up with a Otherworldly Outburst and a Make Mischief. So if I cut the Warhound, my big bomby endpoint here was the Charmbreaker Devil, and a Chandra's Ignition, which serves as both a board wipe and potentially just a crazy way to end the game. And then the thing that I almost pulled off, so I kind of want to leave it in here because I almost pulled it off, is the Kick in the Door. Because if you can get 7 targets with it, it instantly completes the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's the only venture into the dungeon effect in here. So it's a little bit cute. And obviously you don't need to get up to 7. You can instantly blast through a big chunk of any of the dungeons by kicking in the door on Zada with a couple of people next to him. I'm not sure if I should lean more into that because it was very cute. Otherwise, what we're running is among the creatures are things that care about instants and sorceries. So we've got Electrostatic Infantry, a Kessig Flame Breather, a Pyroceratops, and a Dreadhorde Arcanist. And the Goblin Wizardry, which makes prowess tokens. And in the combat tricks category, I gave us the Otherworldly Outburst, a Fists of Flame, and Antagonize, the Kick in the Door. Oh, the Kick in the Door is not a trick because it's a sorcery speed. I think we're going to take out the Make Mischief. The idea behind Make Mischief was I can target Zada with it and make a devil for each creature I control. And then in an extreme pinch, I can point it at my opponent's thing to try to kill it. But as it's a sorcery, it might be not good enough. I'm also a little iffy about this Defiler of Instinct I chucked in here. Because Defiler of Instinct doesn't interact with the deck the way I thought it did when I picked it out, because it only cares about red permanents. So I think that's coming out as well. Which leaves us with some room. And I already know one that has to go in here, and that is Chaos Warp. This is the deck that's getting the Chaos Warp. blazing. Now keep in mind I took 2 creatures out, and and a spell, and I've so far put in 1 spell. So if we're maintaining our ratio, although Goblin Wizardry is basically a creature, so if we're maintaining our ratio, we need to be cognizant. Blazing Crescendo. +3/+1. Excellent. Oh, ooh, that is good. But then the last card absolutely has to be a creature. That is good though. No, you're good call on Blazing Crescendo. That leaves us room. Do I have a Blazing Crescendo? I don't, because I haven't played very much Phyrexia yet. So what is similar to that? Also going to give us a quick search on Magecraft. See if there's anybody who shows up in mono red. A Stormkiln artist. A Stormkiln artist would be interesting. An erratic Cyclops. Ooh, we also have one in here that I think is a good idea, but so far I don't know if it's paid off, is Hazardous Blast. Because it doesn't target Zada, so it's a non-creature that is not interacting with Zada. It's just doing its own thing. Erratic Cyclops, though. I think I've got one of those. In fact, I'm very certain I've got one of those. I just have to find it. Erratic Cyclops. I, in fact, have a set of them because I was trying to build a butt fight deck back in that time. So X is that mana value. That's probably a good pick for this. Instant sorcerers don't cost a ton, but they don't cost nothing. I wish it was cast or copy. That's the thing. Things that trigger off of copies are extra spicy, but they didn't put them in red. Except for Stormkiln Artist, which is very spicy. Like my big concern here is that Erratic Cyclops will end up being a 3/8 or a 1/8, or like not really get super rolling. Stormkiln. Storm. Ugh. Yeah, it's a 4 cost. I always look in the wrong spot. Stormkiln artist. There you go. Seems good. Gives us mana to work with for other things, because this can be a little bit mana hungry. My concern about Erratic Cyclops is that I don't want the spells to be really big. It's a neat card. But I guess I'd rather have something that triggers off of instants and sorceries. Well, I've got a couple things. Charmbreaker Devils already triggers that way. So does Electrostatic Infantry and Pyroceratops. And the latter two have Trample. What I want to do is Fists of Flame Zada, and then attack with everybody, including a Dreadhorde Arcanist, and then Fists of Flame Zada again, for just a complete blowout. That's the thing. This deck has potential for some really crazy blowouts with just like 3 of the cards together. You know, if I had a Mirror Wing Dragon, I'd probably put that in here because it would be a backup plan. That's okay. You know what this deck? I'm taking out the Hazardous Blast. I'm taking out the Hazardous Blast because I know what this deck needs, and it's ways to protect Zada. The thing it needs most is ways to protect Zada. So we're going to give this deck some form of boots. Is there a ward boots? There's leather armor. No. This deck is getting Swiftfoot boots. We're going full ham on this one. This is the deck that's getting Swiftfoot boots because it hinges so heavily on Zada. Although, in my opinion, you shouldn't be playing Zada and then hoping he survives. You should be playing him on the turn you want to do your crazy thing. But Boots of Flying. Is there a Boots of Flying? I thought that I think the one from Forgotten Realms is blue. I don't think it's a colorless boot. I think it's a blue boot. Winged boots. Yeah, it's great. Flying and Ward 4. The issue is it's a blue card. So somebody had to get the Swiftfoot boots. Somebody had to get in a singleton pod. Somebody's going to end up getting the Swiftfoot boot. There was also a Forgotten Realm reprint of Swiftfoot boot. Erratic. I'm still okay. Erratic Cyclops is an interesting proposal, but what if I come up with a counter proposal? Bear with me. What if that, but no? Do I any of these guys trigger a draw card? Kick in the door, kind of. Are there any other? Let's. I have decided. I have made an executive decision. The executive decision is for the last slot to be Backdraft Hellkite. Because that gives us two big punchy bomby creatures to work with. Backdraft Hellkite already interacts really well with our instant speed effects. In the event that we can't keep Zada alive. I think that's the pick. Scoop it up. Of course, as always, needs testing. There's almost no enchantment removal in red. We gave this one the Chaos Warp, which is the only really reliable one aside from that Wild Magic Surge. Chaos Warp could be really interesting in Zada if you target Zada with it. But you could also hose yourself by doing it. So, maybe not recommended. Final colors. Well, the final color is green. The realm of green gives us... The very first one that they came up with that I built was Halsin here. And the build I went for was everything tokens. Mostly, I tried to lean into food. We can pull the forests out, pull the lands out. I tried to lean into food. So we've got a Witch's Oven, a Fierce Witch Stalker, a Wolf's Quarry, a Gilded Goose, a Feasting Troll King. And then I kind of ran out of good food. So then I did other things. We've got Briar Bridge Tracker, Tireless Tracker, both of whom investigate. We have Jewel Thief that gives us a treasure. We have a Nest Invader, an Awakening Zone, and a Kozilek's Predator that give us Eldrazi tokens. I don't actually own a Tireless Provisioner, but good shot. For my removal package, we recently upgraded it with a Beast Within, and it already had a Sprouting Renewal. And then the remaining two cards are Fists of Ironwood and Elven Bow, both of which have wildly underperformed, so they're going to get the axe. Fists of Ironwood is ultimately proved inappropriate. This is a wide build, not a tall build, except for the Tireless Tracker and the Troll King, but he comes with Trample. So the Trample from the Fist of Ironwood is just not worth it. And the Elven Bow is also underwhelming to me. So that's an easy gap to fill. We only have 2 pieces of spot removal in here, and only one of them can hit creatures. So I think a fight effect is what we're looking for. Which box is the green box? It is almost to the bottom. Okay. The green box. I know exactly what I want for it, so this will be an easy pick. We go to the peas. And we select prize fight. We put the prize fight in the deck. And now we think about the other card. What does this deck need? The deck is mostly about going wide with Halsin, using Halsin to turn the tokens into dudes. It has reasonable access to extra mana with a Goose, a Jewel Thief, and some Eldrazi tokens. I almost think it just needs some... Ooh, a Shamanist. You know what? Well, okay. I was about to say, you know what? This deck doesn't have any draw. It has 2 investigate options, but some big chunky draw. Keeping in mind that Halsin has to pay mana to animate my non-creature tokens. But yes, some big chunky draw. Return of the Wildspeaker is probably the better option because it's got a flex in it. Although I wish it had trample. In that case, I wish it had trample because it's a finisher. That would give us a nice big clear like closeout, and only 2 of our creatures are humans, so it triggers off of pretty much, or it works for pretty much everything. The trackers are the only things that are humans. Okay, that's pretty easy. That was a pretty easy pick up and tweak. Put it back together. What time is it? Oh, it's going on 6. I don't know how much progress we're going to make into part 2 of this at this rate. Final existing one is Halana, Kessig Ranger, which I thought was a neat idea, and I ended up giving her several bomby things because she really wants high-powered creatures to trigger her ability. And then she's removal as well, so I really shied back on the removal in the deck. So Skullwinder, Ambush Viper, and Papa Tech Wrecker are our death touchy options for her fight trigger, which isn't a fight trigger, it's just a damage to target trigger. My big crazy things are a Cloud Thresher, because you can evoke it, get the trigger, without having to pay full price for it. Plus it deals with flyers, so it kind of doubles as removal as well. A Phyto-Titan, because it's just too cute. It comes back for free. And then you can pay Halana's ability without having to invest in the big creature, right? Phyto-Titan. I thought it was perfect for this. And then, I'm not sure why I put this in here, but it ended a damn game last time. I gave her an Endraze Forerunners. And I'm not entirely sure why, and it did what Endra's Forerunners does, and was a game-ending bomb. We'll keep that one in mind. Other things we have, we've got a Briarhorn who's got Flash and Evoke, and is a buffing effect. We've got two more ninjas. We've got the Springleaf Avenger and the Coiling Stalker, because jumping in and out of play is... I think I put it in there to be a game-ending bomb. And it did that. I thought the ninjas were cute because you can sort of pop them in and out. I gave her a Primal Force Mage because things keep entering. Whenever another creature enters under your control, that creature gets +3/+3. Now, we've got the ninjas to easily trigger that. But there's no other haste in the deck. We've got a couple of ramp. We've got a Paradise Druid and a Llanowar Visionary to provide some ramp. And then we close it out with a Stampeding Wildebeest, Workshop Warchief, and a Briarbridge Patrol. So we have no non-creature removal options in the deck at all. Absolute zero. So that's an issue. I know the one I would put in here if I had it. It's that Evoke, destroy target artifact or enchantment from one of the Modern Horizons sets. That would be ideal. I think the Stampeding Wildebeest is gonna... Well... The deck is mana hungry as well, and it gets there, but it kind of dirtles around in the early game because it really needs the mana. So I kind of want to take the Stampeding Wildebeest out and upgrade it for... And I think we're going to go with an Acidic Slime, just because it's such a good all-rounder. And hope that people don't use it to blow up mana bases. It doesn't help with our relatively high mana curve. This is a high mana curve. Really what I need to do is I need to bring the mana curve down a bit. Or give us some more early ramp. We might take out the Cloud Thresher. It's 4 green, and it is kind of redundant with the overall removal package, except that it does it without Halana. I'm currently shying away from double-faced cards because of these sleeves that I selected that are just clear. We can solve the problem if we really want to put one in. We can solve the problem. I've got blanks. I've got those blanks that you write in and they got a magic card back. So we can solve the problem if there's one that really fits. But I wasn't reaching for the double face stuff first. I was keeping it in mind, but looking for slightly more convenient options first. I also don't have Jugan defends the temple. Osehu reaches skyward. That one sounds familiar. That one sounds familiar. Pull up all the green sagas, please. We'll say who reaches two forests rhythm to hand. Oh yeah, because they blink out and then return. At which time you could trigger. Ooh, that's actually really good. That's actually really good. Um, they might be good enough. They might be good enough to override my aversion. They're not the only ones either. Tales of Master Sashiro, although that one costs 5. Uh, and the Dragon Kami Reborn, although Dragon weird. Teachings of the Kirin. Boy, Jugen Defends the Temple would be cool. I think Boseku Reaches Skyward is probably the overall winner from that lineup. Oh my god. Saizan, you're here too. I have a drink. It's not very hydrating because it's also a diuretic, but moist. Let's find a copy of Boseku Reaches Skyward, if I have one. Recently discovered that I'm missing some pretty common stuff from. Nope, I got it right there. Boseku Reaches Skyward. Because. Yeah, it doesn't ramp you, but it does ensure that you hit your land drops. My experience with this cube so far is that it's not blazing fast. So a lot of excess ramp isn't necessarily required. And in fact, this deck having some ramp in it means that it gets off the ground faster than a bunch of the other ones. I really like the fact that this blinks itself out, comes back, and then is big enough to do some damage when it returns. It might, in fact, it is. It's going to go in for the Cloud Thresher. We're going to swap it out for the Cloud Thresher. Although I'm going to need a blank for it, so I will be right back. Grabbing one of these double-face blank things. You're absolutely right though. The fact that they blink out and then blink back as a creature triggering Halana is very, very cute. Just the kind of fun interaction I was looking for. I'll write on it later. It's currently just a blank card. Okay. That gives us non-creature interaction, draw, recursion. We went more with recursion than draw in this one. You do get clue tokens out of the Briar Bridge Patrol. I'm going to call that good enough. Set that aside. I'm going to call that one good enough, close enough. Pack it up with that thing. Okay, and that is all 10 of the existing ones revisited. It took us about, let's see, I started at 3, but then I took a break for the cheesecake. So it has taken us about 2.5 hours to go through them all in pretty decent detail. Now the fun part. Building new ones. The sun, we're losing the sun too, and my color balance has gone kind of blue out here, I've noticed. I need a better light. I'm going to BRB ourself, and since I have no music, it's going to be eerily silent, but I mentioned before that I was drinking a diuretic, so BRB. We're back. So, the fun part is I was planning on making some new packs. Now, it occurs to me that it's 6 o'clock. So maybe that's not a best idea to start this right now, but we can talk about picking the commanders for each of them. What I've got here are all the multicolored partners, including the Stranger Things ones. And I just kind of want to settle in on what strategies each of these should go for. I'm kind of tickled by the idea of doing Shabraz the Sky Shark Tribal Humans as one of them, as the blue-white one. So I think I'm going to lock that guy in. Also keep in mind that we don't have to stick to the things that actually have partner. We can branch out. In fact, let's pull up the Dimir commanders right now. I want to kind of keep them to doing one thing. So none of those commanders that have like 4 or 5 abilities in a row. More focus. Or we could just build Shabraz the Sky Shark, since I already decided on that one, and then think about the rest of it later. I should get the white box and the blue box open. Nope, that's the green box. So if you're not familiar with Shabraz, he violates my own rule that I just said. He's partner, flying. Whenever you draw a card, he gets a +1 counter and you gain 1 life, and then he can pay 1 hybrid blue-white to give a human flying. So he's meant to be a draw thing. But I'm tickled by the idea of making him a human tribal thing. I'm going to grab the tray of all of our multicolored boxes. I may have to completely revisit this in a later date. This is how I keep my multicolored cards. They're all in their own colored slots with these divider cards. So what we need is just this one, but we'll have them handy in case I want to go further with this. It being 6 o'clock already, we might not go much further with this. I might wrap it up and let others take the wheel. Jesus, wake the teal. Mine have always been split by the individual colors, so it wasn't that hard. They used to be in a big box together and then split by those colors, by the color dividers in the box. And since they were already all split out like that, it was quite easy to just take each section and put them in in these individual boxes. The interesting thing I did is that in front of the divider are the actual multicolor cards, or the mandatory multicolor cards, and behind the divider are all the hybrids, and then things like that, which is a blue card with a white activation. And the lands ended up behind there as well. So, Shabraz the Sky Shark. Start naming some good humans. We need to set aside some room for interaction. But we got some fun ones to deal with because of, like, Azorius Charm right off the top would be perfect. Because if one of the options is draw a card, and one of the options is put an attacking or blocking creature on the top of its owner's library. So removal, draw to trigger that thing. Thalia's Lieutenant. I believe I have a Thalia's Lieutenant. Meddling Mage. Ooh, I'm probably going to skip the Meddling Mage, but fun idea. I see where you're coming from. Alia's Lieutenant is a 2-drop. That's why I couldn't find it. I'm was going to say, I thought I had one. We also want to keep these in sort of in the realm of the existing ones. So we can't push the boat out too far. But Thalia's Lieutenant for humans, for blue-white humans. How about I can find you. Oh, do I not have that one? Or is that one also not the man in value I thought it was? It's not. It's a champion of the parish, who is Thalia's lieutenant, but without the first part. I can tell. I can tell. I think we're gonna hold off on some of these. We could do Gold Bug, the recolor of Bumblebee that for some reason is the one that got picked for the Transformer tie-in card. It's also tribal humans. So we wouldn't even have to change the deck. Let me read him to you because nobody knows what this guy does. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to attacking humans you control. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, convert him into human spells you control can't be countered. Whenever Goldbug and at least one human attack, draw a card and convert Goldbug. So he's a good card. He's 4 blue-white tribal humans. He does all the things. Humans can't be countered, prevents damage, draws cards. For some reason, he's not Bumblebee, and that's the weirdest part. Is just that he's not. The weirdest part is that he's not Bumblebee. Also, the other weird part is that I put him in the wrong spot in the cards here. He's supposed to be there, right ahead of Guafa Hazid, not way up here by Lavinia. There's our Meddling Mage. Rat. Chun-Li. We could do Chun-Li. Everyone loves a Chun-Li. On a real note, Devout Chaplain. Not Beloved Chaplain, Devout Chaplain. Actually, super yes. It's that interaction that we need to be sure to include in these decks. And I should have that card. In theory. Devouring Light, Devout Chaplain. I should, in theory, have that card. What I should do is ask Scryfall for all the cards in blue and white that say human somewhere on the text. That'll narrow us down. And then we can sort by color. Fiend Hunter, Vizier of Deferment. Vizier of Deferment. Interesting. It depends on what angle we take this. If we want to blink things in and out, or if we want to keep things stable so they can build up. Of one mind. I'm unfamiliar. Two to cast. Oh. Oh. I was unaware of that card. The human and non-human thing is very interesting because our commander in this case would be a shark bird. So and almost all the other packs will have plenty of non-humans. So getting that human and non-human interaction could be super interesting. Mass Appeal. Draw a card for each human you control in blue. That would be nuts with Shabraz out. Captain of the Mists. Oh, it can. What do you think of Captain of the Mists? Which costs 3, not 2. I'm looking in the wrong section. Oop. Where'd that spider come from? Sorry, I squished you, spider, but I didn't know where you came from. You just kind of appeared. Must have been in the cards. I especially like that with tap abilities. Ooh. I don't have this card, but this would be a great card for this. Wedding Announcement. Wedding Announcement would be a real cool card for that. Vizier of Deferment. Pretty sure I've got one of those. I do indeed. Interesting. Okay. Okay, we're starting to Starting to pull this together. Of one mind is interesting. I want to make sure I got some non-creature interaction. Although Tribal Humans kind of leans itself into wanting the creatures to be doing all the interaction. Thalia is the Senate Champion of the Parish. Cemetery Protector, don't have that one, but that would be really cool. Adeline, don't have that one. That one would be really cool. Azorius Charm. The Vizier Deferment up by that. Oh, darn. If Defiler of Faith made human tokens, that would be really, really cool. It does not. Ooh. Lauren of the Third Path. Lauren of the Third Path could be a winner. Oh, and I've already got picked out a crazy nonsense card. Although, with not a lot of tribal decks, it might not be as crazy nonsense as it initially seems. Riders of Gavany. And maybe not Riders of Gavany, but maybe not. Because I'm also looking now at Spare from Evil, which would be hilarious. Angel of Glory's Rise. I was looking at that as well. That would be a good, like, wrap up the game type thing. Except that there are not a lot of zombies, so it would pretty much just be a big human reanimate, which could still be very good. Humans have got a bunch of really interesting combat tricks. Also, when Gideon animates himself, he becomes a human, which is hilarious. But I was looking here at Thraben Doomsayer, who just taps for a human token. Repel the Abominable. Built by non-human sources. Perimeter Sergeant. Are we going for wide tokens or fun interactions? Also, do I have an Angel of Glory's Rise? Let's find out. Let's find out together. Nope, don't have that one. Too bad. Does Gideon's make human tokens? Knight ally. Dearly departed. There's Cemetery Protector again. Cavalry Pegasus. Bethar's Call. Bonds of Faith. I like Bonds of Faith for this. For the flexibility. You're right, I'm not getting a ton out of the blue section in terms of human interaction. But I'm sure there are good blue humans to include. That are just good for being blue and humans. So let's find out. Human. Sorted by rank. Yeah, those are neat. None of those are really, they're just good cards, but none of those are really what I want. Venser's a human. Malevolent Hermit's a human. Venser. Deranged Hermit's a green card. Daring Saboteur, you say? Daring Saboteur. Can't be blocked. Draw a card if you discard a card. That's a pretty good human. That's the other thing. Shabraz gives our humans an evasion option. I think you were thinking of Malevolent Hermit, which I just said a second ago. But I don't think I've got one. Nope, don't have one. Shabraz gives us some evasion, so we can do something like Daring Saboteur. And not have to use its own ability to sneak through with it. Daring Saboteur. So that's a decent shout. But we also could go better. Oh. Like, let's see, the Ether Channeler is already in Alora's deck. That'd be a good pick. Wharf Infiltrator is also already in Ramirez's deck, but he's also a human, interestingly. Um, ooh. The suggestions for EDH Rec rank, other than Venser, because we don't currently have any counter magic in here, and Venser's not true counter magic, but he's real clutch when he works. I think we're gonna toss Venser in here as our some counter magic option / removal / a human. What was I looking through? Just kind of. Oftentimes when I'm looking for cards, I just kind of pan through what I've got, just to see if anything jumps out at me. Getting yawny. Probably a suggestion. I should look at the hybrid cards. Probably it means I should take a break. Maybe come back to this tomorrow morning. Kithkins. No. Kithkins. We don't need Kithkins. We don't need no. All the blue-white hybrids are non-humans. They're all Vidalkins or Kithkins. Or that one that's a giant. That one's a human. Jubilant Skybonder. Creatures you control with flying, which we have for flying, have spells your opponents can cast to target this creature cost 2 more. And it also has flying. And it's a human. I'm going to say yes. Because that's the game plan. Give humans flying and fly in with them. Reflector Mage. I remember that card. Target creatures that can't cast spells with the same name until the next turn. If I go with that, then we have 5 spots of removal, and only one of them can deal with non-creature permanents. Now that doesn't mean we have to stick with Venser, or any of the rest of these. I'm going to put it in there, and put a pin in it. By which I mean I'm going to think about it. Are there any other humans that natively have flying, in case we can't pull together Shabraz? I mean, no doubt there are, but are there any others that are worth playing? Archetype of Imagination is a human. That would be pretty dramatic. Okay. Not a lot coming out of the hybrid section. Club. That's true. We don't have much draw. We got the Daring Saboteur. We don't have much in the way of draw. That's true. I also don't want to lean in too hard on either multicolored or monocolored in any particular spot. Cloud Blazer. Maybe Cloud Blazer. Maybe. I kind of want more human tokens. I want more wide. Not maybe a ton of them, but what are the suggestions on here? Ooh. We'll see if I have it before I say ooh. Oh, too late. I said ooh. Marchesa's Infiltrator. Don't have it. Too bad. That one looks like it would be cool. It's got Dethrone. That one could have been cool with Dethrone. Palace Jailer. That's a great one. That's a great one. Palace Jailer is a good shout. Although we have quite a good chunk of removal in this deck now. This might end up being the removaliest of the decks. Should we throw Odric in? There's not a lot of keywords to go around, but Shabraz brings flying to the party, and then we wouldn't have to pay to fly our humans. Well, if I put in Palace Jailer, I would probably swap that in for the Reflector Mage. Then it brings the Monarch to the party, which is so much fun. What's our curve looking like? We need... Well, the issue with Palace Jailer, of course, is that the threat only is temporarily gone away, even more temporarily than some of the other temp exile things. I want... What do I want? What was I just saw one. So I feel like we just need some more Humans that bring humans. Hainweir Militia Captain does pop out humans. Harmonious Archon would be interesting. Reverend Hoplite could work. Thraben Doomsayer also still has me a little bit intrigued. Let's... A lot of options that are very similar to each other is what I'm looking over right now. Let's sort by mana value. See if I can just grab things that are on the cheaper end. We could throw in that Champion of the Parish. It's still an option. Beskir Shieldmate? Maybe? We are only running a couple multicolored spells, so Hero of Precinct 1 is probably not going to cut it. Adeline would be great. Really would. Okay. I'm going to grab the Thraben Doomsayer. Grab the Perimeter Sergeant that I mentioned way back at the beginning. We don't have a big closer at the moment, which the Angel of Glory's Rise would definitely be if I had one. Oh, man. Do I have an Elspeth Sun's Nemesis? Angel of Glory's Rise. Dearly Departed still is an option. I have an Elspeth Sun's Nemesis. This could be the deck that gets a Planeswalker. No, I don't have a Sun's Nemesis. I'm not looking for a specific mana value. Trin. Trin's an option too, although it would lock out Trin from being a commander in her own right. Also, my copy of Trin is very badly curled. So that's also a consideration. Not one I would like to be having to consider, but here we are. Rick from the Walking Dead would be an absolute bombastic bomb. Let's divide this by CMC. So we've got our 2s, lots of 3s, 2s, and our 4s, and then Shabraz is our only 5. So we've got a proxy everything. So what we've got is a very 3 heavy curve, and I wanted to put something up at the top. I know in Shabraz is himself presenting a major threat to the board. So, but it'd be nice to have like a big chunky human. You know, big thick human. Yeah, okay. You're gonna be broken on me. Human, that one. Search. By man value descending. Agent of treachery. Flight of Equinauts. Interesting. Archetype of Imagination is also still a possibility because it would just let us swing in crazily. Although in that case, I would want something to buff the board up. God, there are some cards that I wish said human instead of the thing that they do say. I know humans don't need the help. But for this specific thing. You know who's a human. You know who's a human and is a big chunky thing and kind of threatens to end the game on the spot is Sun Quan. I think we're going to throw Sun Quan in here. And yes, that is a $60 card. It's become stupid over time. Because this game is stupid. Because this game is just terrible. You know what? Actually, another idea. Oh, I'm gonna end up loading this up with legends, aren't I? Gonna end up loading this up with some legends. Do I want to go that route with it, or is Sun Quan enough? I was gonna put Celestine in here, because I am heavy on 3 drops. which is exactly what Celestine wants to be getting back. And she's a human. And she's lifelink, which this deck has currently no means to gain life back, which is strange for a white deck. Other than Shabraz, I suppose, who gains life just passively. We're going to get one card in here, and then I'm going to wrap us up for the day. Because deck construction is slow, and I want to go have dinner. So, settle in on something. What do I need? I've got a 6-drop. I'm going to put a combat trick in, because currently we only have 2 non-creature spells in here. I'm going to put a combat trick in. It's one I saw earlier. Okay, it's either going to be Flare of Faith, Spare from Evil, or Repel the Abominable. They're all 2-drops. They all interact with humans. I think we're going to go with Repel the Abominable. Repel the Abominable. Assuming I have it. Assuming I have it. Repel the Abominable. Which I believe Shining Spear suggested early on. Boy, this would have been a good time to have the live chat, like voice chat enabled. One more thing to work on the back end. 15 cards, and then we get 10 lands plus Shabraz is 26 cards, and that's what a pack looks like. And that's where we max out. Let me put this box back in the box. Okay. Okay, back. No, that's fine. I'm also gonna. Oh, you're cleaning up from dinner. I was just about to head to dinner. I was just about to head off to dinner because it's 6:45, and I've been on since 3. So let's pop up here. You can see. Oh, I left the door to the bathroom open. Let me put my this way, shoulder in front of it. I'm reasonably pleased with this as a first run of a multicolored one. The proof, of course, is going to be in the testing. I'm a little iffy because I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double pip cards. One of them is Sun Quan, who in theory should just end the game. So, so that's a pretty solid start, I think. This did take a little bit of time, and partly because it was talking through it so much. But it took me days and days to make it the first time. So I'm not surprised that it's taking this long. I will probably come back on in the morning and try to stick a few more together. I might work on them on my own tonight as well. I don't know that I want to do any more streaming at the moment. I've never been on live at this time of the evening. I'm going to raid us off, I think. How many people we got? Oh, we had a little bit of an accumulation of folks over the hours. Well, thanks for hanging out, everyone. Like I said, I want to get some dinner because it's been almost 7 hours since I made those fish cakes. And all I've had is a little slice of cheese with some fish in it since then. So we are going to raid off to... Oh, Slay 3K just started. I've never gotten to raid him before. He's got 0 viewers because he literally just hit go live a second ago. He's not even showing up in my list yet. I'll have to refresh. A second ago. Okay. So that's where I'm going to send us. He's playing the new Kerbal Space Program. They just did a new Kerbal something something. He's a good guy. He streams in the evenings, my time, about now. I had fun with it. It was a little bit slow at the start, but that's fine. The start was mostly fixing up the existing pods anyways. But I had reasonable fun with it. I might not, and I was hoping to get all of these done for tomorrow, all the 2 colored ones. We might not get all of them. There might only be some of them in there, which would make an unbalanced pod, but or whatever. If it happens, it happens, I guess. Doing the land for these will be really easy, I think. I'll just grab a bunch of dual lands. But yeah, so that was fun. I will try to do this again. I don't really have a good setup for playing Magic on the camera. So, yeah. Thanks for your help. You came up with some good ideas. I hope this is a good pack when we get down to it. And I'll see you later.